His son.
His son, okay. Interesting thing
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to Tippah Tigers, Campaign 6-8. If you don't mind, put your phones on vibrate.
That ain't baby. Her sister had two. While he was still married to her.
We don't want those phones ringing during our meeting. If it rings while I'm up here talking, I might lose total, complete thought. If everyone will stand, caps off, and Brother Bill will come up and do a prayer, and then, Brother Bobby do a prayer, and Bill lead our pledges. Does everyone have a newsletter? Visitors, do you have a newsletter? Okay, everybody, you can look back on the back pages and see our pledges. If you don't know them, you can read them all.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, Lord, we do thank you for this beautiful day and this time to gather together. Lord, we thank you for this country we live in and the privileges, the rights that we have. We thank you for those men and women that we have, Father, that are serving in our armed forces, and especially those that are serving in harm's way. Lord, we pray for their protection. Father, we pray that tonight, Lord, that all that we do would honor and glorify you. We want to honor our ancestors, Father, and to remember the fight that they fought, Lord. And Father, it was a righteous fight that they were involved in, Lord. And Father, we want to uphold their memories. And Father, just pray that you'll just bless tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. There are pledges to our flag. First, the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Salute to the Mississippi flag. I salute the flag of Mississippi and the sovereign state for which it stands, with pride in her history and achievements, and confidence in her future, under the guidance of Almighty God. As the Confederate flag comes down, take this moment to remember your ancestors, where they were this rainy night, and maybe where their folks were trying to keep the farm going.
Salute.
I salute the Confederate flag with affection, reverence, and undying devotion to the cause for which it stands.
May be seated. Hello, everyone.
No.
Everybody about to get rained out.
Been rained.
Man, that has been a mess. See, my yard, you can't even walk across it tomorrow. Yeah. But my weeds are growing good. My yard's about green. So as soon as it clears off, I'm going to have to poison it so it gets drying up. We've got a great speaker tonight to entertain us, and I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of business, but I'm going to go through it pretty quick, and so we can get our speaker up here and not bore you guys. We got one to vote on and 2 certificates to give out tonight. And of course, think of Bill Baker. You know, we do our membership, not missing a meeting all year, perfect attendance certificates every year. And so that's saying 12 months not missing a meeting. And we have fidged a little bit, as long as if he's an SCV member and he's working for the SCV and can't be at our meeting, we went ahead and give him a perfect attendance because he was working for the cause. So I'd like to think that Bill Baker tonight, he's got a bug or something. He's been running to the bathroom pretty regular. And so I think he deserves to have his perfect attendance to keep going because he's saving us from getting that bug. So,
I don't know if that's grandfather to me from last month for missing is because of the same reason.
yeah,
Yeah, how's
well,
that?
I was thinking about that. I thought, well, Bill said, it's gonna mess up my perfect attendance. I said, well, we'll work something out there.
Knocked it out early, don't worry
But
about
I'd lots rather him be at home with that and give it to all of us. I mean, we all love him, and I told him we'd be thinking about him. But, he's been, never mind. He's been cutting up with me, let's put it that way. Okay, let's move on. I don't have a lot of business tonight. I'm not one to take notes. It just pops in my head, I guess, when I get up here at night. And people remind me a few things. But we got a new member. How's it going with the attendance of y'all? Who's working on a new man? Huh? Is that all hands I see? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Now y'all remember y'all all jumped on it on the bandwagon about getting one new member. I've got one tonight we're voting on, and I got 2 more, maybe 4 coming. And I work out of town, so I know if I can get one, y'all can. Okay? I'm gonna have 3 or 4 or 5 before the end of the year, and I hope y'all do. Okay? Y'all work on it. Let's fill this room up. I'd like to have to get more chairs out. But we're going to vote for a young man tonight, and I've been talking to, and I've got pretty fond of him, and I don't know him very well, but I hope we get to know him. Mr. Stephen Smith. Steve, hold your hand up, brother. He lives out Dumas area, and he's wanting to come in under his ancestor, which he has already gave us his information, and Mike done had it checked out, and everything's good on that part of it. He's going under his ancestor's name of Ephraim Grissom, Company F, 23rd Mississippi Infantry. I would like to make a motion to accept Steve in camp. Steve makes a motion. Anyone second the motion?
Yeah.
Name, I'm sorry, I would senior moment. Okay. He seconds. All in favor to accept Steve as a new member of Tippah Tigers, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Congratulations, Steve. You're a Tippah Tiger. I told you it'd be easy. It's commander to remember anything. Okay. We've got a cadet. We don't normally have to vote on cadets, and that is grandsons or sons of members. If you have a new baby, I don't know what the age. I guess as soon as they're born, they can be 12.
He'll get his SCV number when we send him in as a cadet, but he can't be.
Yeah, but I mean, cadet runs up to 12, don't it? 12. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. But they can be a cadet right after birth, can't they?
Right, exactly.
Matter of fact, we had an infant one time that we brought up here, and it was our youngest cadet of all time at the Tigers. But it can be your grandson or your son, and we have Tommy. Is this your grandson? Is this right?
Stand him up back there. Stand up there, kid.
Grandin Rainey. Am I pronouncing this Rainey? But that's the future right there, guys. That's the future. Might be a little while, but that's the future. But I'm still planning on being around. I don't know about y'all. Okay, and then we've also, Josh Rainey. Where's Josh? Hold your hand up, Josh. He is coming in under, Mike, we need to vote on him too?
Yeah, we vote on him. He's coming in under Tommy and Jeremy. We got
okay. Madison Kinsey, 3rd great-grandpa. He's in the 30th Texas Cavalry. Anybody like to make a motion to accept Josh as a new member of Tippah Tigers? And this is Tommy's son. Okay, Ken makes a motion. Anyone second? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Congratulations, Josh. So Tommy's been busy. Okay. I was hoping Lee Miller and them would be here tonight to update us on what was going on with the monument.
Marty, he called, Bud Cross called about He said they were just leaving and something happened and they had to go back to Memphis. So I don't know if it was SCV related or something happened, but, he said everything was okay, but they're not gonna make it tonight.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, because it's been real nice to have them in our camp, and we're firsthand on getting news on what's going on with the Memphis situation, and it's really been nice for us. Plus, we love them too. Randy, where are you at, Mr. Randy? Did you stick this up here, or Mike?
That's where I left it.
Okay. I thought maybe it's something I needed to share.
What Randy has, I'll introduce him. Randy, stand up. Everybody knows Randy Bishop, Tippah Tiger, and one of our speakers. If you'll notice his medal he's got it's 30-year pin. He came in at 87, and he is the senior one in this place now. Wow.
Good job, Randy. Good job. We're so glad to have you back in here. And Randy also, if you don't have any of his books, he's got some amazing books. Probably got some out in the car, don't you?
No, sir. No, sir.
Yes, Bobby.
He got his latest book is back there, is a door prize tonight.
Really?
Yes.
Or I
Alright.
stop, whichever one.
Okay.
Marty, he's also gonna be the speaker at Buddy's court meeting in his first
Monday night. Third Monday night.
third Monday
Now,
night.
y'all know the CARS date has moved, and that their location and date. Y'all are aware of that. I don't want nobody running over there on Tuesday night and at Martha's Vineyard and can't find nobody.
At the American Legion, and he's gonna speak about Confederate generals from Mississippi and Tennessee.
Very good.
Okay. All right. Randall, Beavers come front. Casey, come front. What are you doing? All right. These are new members that we voted on that we're handing out certificates to. This is Randall Beavers. He has been elected a member of Tippah Tigers, Camp 868, son of Confederate veterans, upon the record of his Confederate ancestor, Joshua Benton Beavers. Rick and Joshua was named after Benton
Josiah.
County. Josiah. Was he named after?
Probably General Benton.
Probably so. Company E, 2nd Mississippi Infantry. Congratulations, sir. Mrs. Casey Kappelman. Are you from Pine Grove area? You got family out there? Casey has been elected a member of Tippah Tigers, Camp 868, number 868. Son of Confederate veterans upon the record of his Confederate ancestor, Private Isaac James, Company A, 2nd Mississippi Cavalry. Cavalryman. Congratulations. I congratulate you, gentlemen, and express the gratitude of our organization. These certificates will serve as a reminder not only to you, but all who shall see it, of your ties to the Confederate States of America. Congratulations again. Mike, you do business?
Let's see that. You say Isaac James?
This is the February 1st meeting.
Over Company A.
Commander Hubbard opened the meeting at
Ways
7
rough.
p.m. Commander Captain Irvin gave the benediction.
After Salt
Sergeant
left,
Major
he
pledged
came.
his flag. Historian McCommon introduced the speaker, Bill Layton, who gave a demonstration on discipline of the war between the states. He showed examples of simple yet painful and insulting techniques for some of the minor difficulties of the camp. Adjutant Mullen read the minutes from the January meeting. Motion was made to accept by Jim Daniels, seconded by Bobby McCommon. The commander covered the following. A Patriot of the Year award was awarded to Kevin Lentz, the first recipient, and the award will now be known as the Kevin Lentz Award and be at an annual camp award in January. Okay, the plaque has been made for the Confederate statue on the square and hopefully will be installed before the Confederate Memorial Day, April 28th, Monday. In April, the speaker for the service will be Wes Teal in portrayal of Confederate President Jefferson Davis. And y'all remember him when he was here?
wasn't he good?
First person, yeah, he was good. Ronnie Richardson will work on some new shrubs, getting sand around the monument. March 3rd and 4th is Military and Relic Show in Germantown. Okay. April 8th is the Relic Show we go to. New prospective member Casey Tippleman was brought before the camp. Motion was made to accept by Robert Jackson, second by Randy Bishop. Motion carried. The camp has purchased a camera and a tripod and to use for the camp meetings and the other camp functions. Robert Jackson and Casey Tippleman will work with others as volunteers. Two new members were awarded membership certificates and welcome package, Robert Kennedy and John Kennedy. Lee Miller gave an update on the camp on the recent victory of the SCV and asked us to be diligent in the fight to protect our Confederate monuments and history. Buddy Ellis announced that the Corn SCV meeting was the third Monday of February with featured speaker Lee Miller. That was a good program. Door prizes were awarded to Dennis Gorgian, Danny Clevenger, Marty Hill, and Danny Nelson. Chaplain Irvin gave the invocation. Rick Adair and the Tippah Tigers band led the singing of Dixie, and the meeting was adjourned at 8:15.
Good job, Mike. Anybody like to make a motion that our minutes have been read? Danny, anyone second? Bobby second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, Mike, if y'all will bring up the wheel up here, Wheel of Fortune, and we'll do our drawing. And while they're getting that together, the band is going to entertain you for just a second.
This guy here, Steve Brock, he's the one that got the SCV camp started in White. And I've met him first time a couple of years ago, I think. And anyway, he joined up with Mechanized Cavalry as well. And we're going over in July. We got a volcano run. Rent Harleys and go to the Big Island, and then we're gonna go back to Waterloo. That's he's pretty cool dude though.
I've got an order from the National Archives, a story about Isaac James and that whole company.
Isaac James, let's see that. There's a lot of intermarriages there too in the James side of the family on Rutherford. I could punch a can on the computer and I'd tell you exactly how we can and through who.
My grandmother's sister married a Rutherford. Bob Rutherford was his dad.
Everybody can do too. I said my great grandfather. I got some that are not connected to Rutherford. Somebody comes from somewhere. I ain't got a connection. But most of those families are low.
See, I live right by a little boat.
Yeah, well, I was up there last weekend. It was raining, kind of off and on. We went up there to visit the family. I showed him all the grandparents, great grandparents. Took all the Thomas and Marguerite. I said they were so they got here first. This area was there, some of Blue Mountain, but they were first. So I just tried to show them all that stuff. Well, if you go back further, they're not getting. I've only found one intermarried family. Only one. It's kind of weird, but you go back to because they had a place Blue Mountain. Those Rutherfords were rich. We came and we were poor. I think we had a few of them, but these guys had they had plenty of money. Well, we couldn't go back to shop. But he wasn't in the basket book yet.
Give him a hand.
All the money and everything. We got all the parties.
Smile driving far away.
All families here.
Tell me that tears ever come. In this lovely land of one cloudy day. Oh, the land of cloudless day. Oh, the land of uncloudy sky. Oh, they tell me of a home where those storm clouds rise. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day. Oh, they tell me of an uncloudy day.
I tell you what, it costs you $75, $100 to go somewhere and hear that kind of music. It's not that good either. Man, they're good, aren't they? Sounds so good together. All right, let's, y'all got tickets? We're gonna draw, and then we're gonna turn it over to the speaker, and turn it over to Bobby to introduce our speaker. And how many drawings we have, right? 4 drawings. I'll take them out. All right, first one. Y'all ready? Has everybody bought tickets at once? Last chance. You can't win if you don't play. Okay. I tell you, you can go up to Memphis over there at the state line and buy the scratch-offs, and you ain't got near the chance you do right here. Joey over there laughing, he knows what I'm talking about. Hey, Joey, I buy them too. I'll get about $20 or $30 a head, and I'll turn around and spend them and lose every one of them. Oh, man. All right. We waiting on a man over there. We need to put his in there, Mike. Joey, I won $100 twice, but I probably cost me $500 to get it. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, let's try again. Rex, you got room in that vault for whoever wins. Okay. Hey, it'd be like old Mr. Drysdale on Beverly Hillbillies. Granny was wanting her cellar dug, and Mr. The banker thought that she was digging a hole, that big old deep hole to put her money in. He got to go crazy. And so he volunteered his facility, the bank vault, but didn't know that Granny was going to put all her victuals down there. This old, fork back, and, all this stuff that they had. And yeah, there were rheumatism medicine. And it turned out that he had to take it to the bank, and it stunk, real bad. And she told Bruce, I know this because I saw it the other night, it said that, old Mr. Drysdale said that he'd deliver it to me anytime I wanted something out of that vault. But it was pretty funny. All right, y'all ready now this time? Everybody got them? All right, the first one is $3.99.
Hey, there you go.
All right, there you are. Go up there and get
Table
your
back
prize.
up there.
That's a second.
Well, you start out new members.
Give me one more. I'm letting him get his choice. I don't want somebody coming in second, run up there, fighting it out. I don't think I have anything to worry about. That's a big man back there. All right, next drawing, 386. 386. Somebody's got it.
Bobby's got it.
Ain't there one? Imagine that.
Okay.
483.
After a bloody shadow.
Sign.
You can always find a book on the water, ain't we?
Okay. Y'all help Mr. Bob out there.
It was a tough choice between that and blackberry wine.
We'll move on. Next number. 466. 466. Somebody. It ain't me. Rex. Rex, the brother man. Hey y'all, Rex done a program at the Bird Dog Museum, and Jim recorded it and gave me a tape, a CD of it. Rex, did you know I had a copy of that? Man, that's phenomenal. I didn't know he was that smart. I mean, it is good, guys. I wish y'all could hear it. But we're going to get him to come and do that program here. I mean, y'all learn stuff about forests that you might not even know about. I mean, he was very entertaining. Rex, you done a great job. If you can do that here, we want you. All right, last one, 424. 420. All right.
The book's still up there, Randy.
Randy just won his book. Okay, Bobby, if you'll come up and introduce our speaker and tell us who we got next month before you introduce him. Can you do that for us?
Oh, what a crowd we got tonight. Next month, we're gonna have Mr. Pat Anders doing his speech, with his banjo and
Is he
talking
bringing his
about.
banjo?
He's gonna bring his banjo and give us a history on the banjo itself. And he's gonna be playing Tom Dooley and telling us a little tale about Tom Dooley that I didn't know about, and still really don't know. But anyway, back whenever I was being drafted for this position by Mike and 2 or 3 others around here, I got to thinking about, what would be interesting. And there's one thing that has really kept my interest up and still has, is a telegraph system. And in the day, that was high tech. I mean, the internet can't come close to it, in my opinion. But anyway, we was down at Corinth having breakfast with Colonel Tom McKinney one morning, and I said something about I'd like to find somebody that could do a program on the telegraph system. Well, lo and behold, a man sitting right next to me, he said, I know somebody that can do it. And this man sitting right here, Mr. Joe McCormick. And a lot of you may not know Mr. Joe, but we have really grown to love that man. Think a lot of it. A lot of you who's read this book right here, the Jack Hansen One-Man War. Mr. McCormick drew all of this right here. The dust cover and all of the illustrations in the book right there. That's his hands that done it.
Brother Bobby,
Yes, sir.
if you don't mind, can I add, I spoke to him before the meeting,
Yes, sir.
and on your spare time, if you get time to do it, he's gonna draw us up a picture maybe for a t-shirt for the camp.
Okay. He already has.
Well, I know, but he's gonna do another one, a simple
Okay. All right.
something, but
Okay.
anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Round 2. But anyway, Joe's a very talented individual. I tell you what, if I could draw like that, I'd be tickled to death. But the only thing I can draw is flies. That Joe's a lot better than that, let me tell you. But anyway, Mr. Joe McCormick, whenever I asked him about the telegraph system, he said, I know somebody that could do that. Huh. I said, okay. He said, I got a friend, been knowing him for a while. His Jerry Ellis is his name. So I said, well, you reckon you could sweet talk him into doing us a program? He said, I think so. So things went on a week or two, and I said, well, I don't guess he's gonna do it then. And then all of a sudden one day he said, I talked to Jerry, he said he'd be glad to. So we got in contact with him. I had to carry Larry Wayne to Jackson to the hospital or doctors up there one day. And we swung by Jerry's house and had a real good talk with him. Talked to him for, I guess, maybe 30 minutes, an hour. Of course, I had to get Larry Wayne home. He needed to get home, so I had to cut our visit short. But anyway, I've really grown to admire this man. And he knows a lot about the telegraph system and the railroad system, which, went hand in hand. And we wound up and got a couple of gentlemen that he used to work with up at Jackson up here, so they kind of having a little family reunion tonight. But anyway, I'm not going to say too much more about the man. I'm going to let him introduce mostly himself and turn the program over to him. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jerry Ellis.
Oh, thank you very much.
Becky Jean and I really appreciate the invitation, and we feel like it's an honor to have been invited to come and meet with you. I've got to confess that I have never spoken to this kind of group. I told Becky Jean and Joe on the way down, and thank you, Joe, for getting me into something, but I've enjoyed it so far. I'll see if I can return the favor. But I told them coming down, if I was speaking to a Ruritan club, I would feel so much at ease. Because I've been a Ruritan club is a service club, and I would imagine we do some of the same work that you do in our community. And I had the honor of serving as national president of Ruritan in 1977. But I've read about some of the things that you do. And it's an honor to be here at the Tippah Tigers Camp number 868, Sons of the Confederacy Veterans. Did I get that right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, you know, that's maybe not a big deal. But we've had speakers to come to our Ruritan Club, and they'd say, I'm so delighted to be here at your chapter, or your camp. And I know right then and there, they didn't know anything about Ruritan, because we are numbered as clubs. So offhand, I thought, well, that man does not know anything about us. So I'm going to confess before you even say it. I know very little about what you do. But what I have read on the internet, and you have some, there is quite a bit on the internet, you have some outstanding websites. And I've read that, and from what I understand, perhaps your primary goal is to make sure that our generation and the generations to come know the history, not as it has been taught in our high schools, if it's taught at all, but the history as it was.
Right.
Warts and all. Because neither side was perfect, but we believed in what we did. And you cannot fault somebody for that. So if you do not do anything else, if you just make sure that the generations to come recognize and know what happened, where it happened, and exactly how it happened. History is one thing that should not be changed. But believe you me, it's changed every day, even if they teach it at all. So I commend you on that work and on other work that you do here in this area, in Ripley and the surrounding area. Now, as Bobby stated, I'm a railroad man. I am not a public speaker. I worked for the railroad for 46 years. I went to work for the railroad whenever I was a junior in high school, 16 years old. And I worked till I was 62. I started out whenever I was a junior, and I worked all that summer. And then most of the time I worked up in southern Illinois, and James Thurman whenever I named the places that I worked, such as Cairo, Illinois, and Towns, and Sparta, and Tulsa, and James could tell you every place about it, because he worked those places after I did. And I worked weekends and went to school. And back then, we got out for cotton picking. Now, cotton picking back then was not like Earl's cotton picking. You didn't go out and make sure the belts were okay and it was greased, the batteries were good, and you started. No, you got your 9-foot pick sack with a tar bottom, and that's what you started cotton picking with. Earl's been there before he ever had the cotton pickers he's got. And project graduation, you know, that's a good thing. I'm sure you have. I'm from Pinson, Tennessee, but I'm sure Mississippi has the same thing. You know, on graduation night they have something for the graduates to keep them out of trouble. My project graduation was, I graduated from Pinson, got through about 8:30. I was not one of the keynote speakers. In fact, my mother taught school and she kept after me, son, you need to do better with your grades. You're not doing what you could do. And my crutch was always, well, I'm doing better than Larry Casey. That's not a reason, but that was my thought. I made better grades than Larry Casey. Larry Casey died about, 5 years ago probably? Something like that. A multi-millionaire. Maybe I should have gotten behind Larry, which would have been hard to do. But my project graduation was, we got through about 8:30 and I left the school, drove to Corinth, Mississippi, walked 1.5 miles. James, you made that trip, to a little place called Rusker Junction. Did not even have a road going there. You walked, and now if you parked at 7th Street, it was about 1.5 miles. If you parked in the junkyard, which I did, it was only about 1.25 miles. That was my project graduation. And believe you me, I didn't get into any trouble because there was nobody out there but me. So that's how much things have changed. I worked there from 11 o'clock to 7 in the morning on my graduation night. I began as a telegraph operator. I learned to telegraph whenever I was about 11 years old. I had an older brother, Bobby, who James knew and Earl knew. Don, did you know Bobby? No. But anyhow, I had an older brother that my daddy taught to telegraph, and while he was teaching him, I picked it up. You know, you say now, you better be careful what you say around that kid, he'll pick it up. Well, I picked up telegraphy at about 11 years old. So I knew the day that I was 16, or just a little bit after, I knew I was going to work for the railroad. College was no option. I mean, it was railroading or nothing. So I went to work as a telegraph operator whenever I was 16. I went to East St. Louis whenever I was 16 years old and went to work. Now, can you imagine sending what I call a kid now to East St. Louis to work? I never will forget. I got on number 2. That was a little rebel that used to come through here. I was crying, mother was crying, and daddy was saying, son, you're going. So I went whenever I was 16 years old. After that, I became a train dispatcher at the age of 21, which was too young to be in that position. It was too much responsibility, too much stress, but nevertheless, I did it. And there was a general superintendent named Mr. Bridges, and whenever I mention these things, I mean, this is, James could be doing the same thing. And Mr. Bridges called me up to his private car one night on 16, and he says, son, you're too young to be a train dispatcher. And my answer to him was, well, my brother did it at 21. And he says, I'll let you know when I get to St. Louis, I will wire back. And he wired back and says, told Mr. Forlines, our superintendent, says, go ahead and let him do it, but don't ever do this again. So I started dispatching trains whenever I was 21 years old. And then I became agent train master. Now let me just expound just very briefly on this agent part. James Thurman, Gene Holden, Don McApplin knew more in one day about being an agent than I did. I told Mr. Dickerson, I said, Mr. Dickerson, I'm not an agent. I'm a telegraph operator, train dispatcher. I've never done agent's work. And he says, well, you'll have clerks there that can do it. And believe you me, I leaned on them. I've called Don McApplin many times down at Middleton. Actually called him before he was even part of our railroad. And James would he'd just take care of me. I could run the yard. I had no trouble being the train master part and running the 2 yards. I could handle the customers. I could handle the switchman. Every once in a while, James would say, Jerry, I believe, what was the boy's name, switchman, you'd say, I believe he needs an alignment. I've forgotten his name, but I could give them an alignment when they needed. But it was people like James and Gene Holden and Don. That's the only reason I can put agent on my resume. I was a train master for a number of years, and being a train master helped run those 2 yards there in Jackson. James was an excellent clerk, and I've told him many times, Don, you was a great help to me even though you worked somewhere else. How many times did I call you and ask you what I need to do? And as I said earlier, I had the honor of serving as president of Rotan National, a service club somewhat similar to what you've got. Our objectives might be a little bit different, but you work for the betterment of the community, and that's what we did. And I worked a lot of jobs, like I mentioned Rustler Junction. I worked at Perry Switch 11 years straight, from 11 at night to 7 in the morning. And during this time, I had a lot of time to read. I've often said that if I had read the right books, I could have probably been a brain surgeon. But I did not always read the right books. And there were people on the railroad back then, such as Billy Harris and so forth, that made sure we had those other kind of books. And I read one right after another. And then it dawned on me, you know, I need more knowledge than what I'm getting out of these books. I need more knowledge than what I got just staying ahead of Larry Casey. So this was before the internet, and I absolutely wore the Jackson-Madison County Library out. Reading mostly history. Not only history of our country, but world history, any type of history. And I made it a point of mine. There's more to know than what I know now. And there's still a lot to know that I don't know, but I satisfied myself that I had learned some things that I didn't know. And knowledge is a great thing. And I just got through high school the best way. Now, Beck G graduated from the same high school, and she was valedictorian. And I was 2 or 3 grades ahead of her, and I was just 1 notch below the bottom. If anything happened to Larry Case, I would have been the bottom. but because of the studying of our history and so forth, I feel comfortable. And Bobby said, when you meet these people, you will be as comfortable there as you would at a Ruritan meeting, or I would have felt comfortable coming to your church as a lay speaker. That would be fine. But I feel comfortable speaking to you tonight. And I want to talk to you very briefly. And then Bobby has asked me if I would demonstrate a little bit on how to telegraph and maybe answer some questions that you might have. But I feel comfortable in discussing with you the importance of railroading in general and telegraphy particularly during the war between the states. And in this area where we are now, Ripley, and northern Mississippi and northern Alabama and West Tennessee are some of the major places where where railroad was so important. Not every place had a railroad. We were one of the places where we did have railroads and where they played such an important part. The first thing I would like to bring to your attention is the M&C Railroad. Now, Earl Lake goes right through your town. Did you know it was M&C at one time? Memphis to Charleston. Did you know it actually ran to Stevenson, Alabama? That's as far as it went. 311 miles from Memphis to Stevenson, Alabama. And there at Stevenson, it joined up with some other railroads, and they joined up with some others, eventually going as far as the East Coast. In fact, the railroad through Middleton, and that was the only railroad at that time that connected the Mississippi River to the East Coast. And what a part it played. Can you let's just stop and think of some of the places that it connected. What about Memphis? Grand Junction, LaGrange, Moscow, Middleton, Corinth, Iuka, the Shoals, Huntsville, Sheffield. Listen, is that not a page out of history? I mean, when you read the history of the war between the states, how many times do you read about Iuka, Corinth, Grand Junction, Memphis? I mean, it was there. And this railroad connected all of these places together. Then can you not imagine how much time and money and men were spent to burn trestles, burn bridges, mend rails, spike switches, anything to upset the movement from Memphis to Sheffield and all these places in between? I mean, it was a major part of the war effort. And then in the part where I live, the M&O Railroad, Mobile and Ohio. It ran from Mobile, Alabama to St. Louis, Missouri, 644 miles. Think of the places it went or connected to. Mobile, Alabama, Meridian, Artesian, Oklahoma, Tupelo, Boonville, Corinth, Bethel Station, which is now Bethel Springs, Jackson, Tennessee, Humboldt, Trenton, Union City, Columbus, Kentucky. Whoa, you say Columbus, Kentucky? Well, Columbus, Kentucky wasn't 300 people at the most. But Columbus, Kentucky, the M&O Railroad ran from Mobile to Columbus, stopped. There happened to be a little stream there named Mississippi River. we ferried the trains across the river from Columbus, Kentucky to the area where Cairo, Illinois is, by ferry. And then on up through Thames, Murfreesboro, Sparta, on into St. Louis. Columbus, Kentucky. Fort Pillow ring a bell with you? Study your history. Fort Pillow's there in the Columbus area. When you think that if you could read the diary of Nathan Bedford Forrest, how many times, and I just named a few of the places. There are many places in between that I didn't name, such as Guntown and places down through there, places you know of. Wonder how many times that's mentioned in his diary. I was in Tupelo en route to Oklahoma, or Corinth, where the M&O Railroad crossed the Memphis to Charleston. Read about Shiloh. Basically, it was because of Corinth. And basically, it was because of Corinth because of the railroads. So you see, the railroads then played a very active part, as they did whenever I was growing up. And when this railroad through here ran from New Orleans with a line across to Mobile, but this was a major railroad through here. One of the major railroads, it was GM&N, Gut, Mobile, and Northern. And then in 1938 or 9, the M&O Railroad went bankrupt. And the GM&N took it over. And we became Gut, Mobile, and Ohio, which included all of this railroad through here. Some of the first passenger trains that were in the United States, diesel passenger train, came through here, number 1 and 2, Little Rebel. I used to ride it constantly from Jackson to Murfreesboro to Sparta, anywhere up through there and back. And you could give the porter a couple of dollars and he'd give me a berth in the back to sleep. And had a dining car on there that was out of this world. But their ham sandwiches were 35 cents. I didn't eat that much. Not that expensive food back then. 35 cents. I remember that just as is yesterday because every once in a while I would take a quarter and a dime and I'd buy me a ham sandwich on the Little Rebel. Now, our kids would say, "Oh, Daddy, you know that's not true." It was true. I mean, it happened. Some of you have been there. When I went to work for the railroad, I made $13.35 a day. And that was more than the principal at our high school, where I was next to last at the bottom. It was more than what he was making. So, I'm going back a pretty good way. As the railroads progressed, so did the mode of communication called telegraphy. Telegraphy was better than telephones for this reason. You could stretch 2 wires almost from point A to point B regardless and have a telegraph office. I mean, it was just that easy. And more than that, there were not many telephones. And more than that, not many people could telegraph. And right now, you can find just about as many people that can read smoke signals as they can read telegraphy. It's a lost art. I came that close to teaching my oldest granddaughter how to telegraph, and I wish I had, because someday there's not going to be anybody. The only way you're going to hear telegraphy is going to somewhere like the Smithsonian, and they'll have it there. But it's a lost art. But it was a big part of the Civil War. number one, it was easier to string 2 wires and put a telegraph instrument at each end, and therefore you had communication, than it was to a telephone, which was almost unheard of back then. And like I say, it was hard for other people to, if you walked into a telegraph office, which I've heard some people tonight say, well, I used to go in the office at Middleton or Carmel, and I hear all those sounders going in, I just wonder, what are they saying? And the same way during the Civil War, people would walk in, they'd have no idea what you were saying or what you was copying or sending. So it was pretty secure. And because of it being secure, it was used by our generals when they were in the field. The first thing they would try to do is to get a telegraph wire to their tent to where they could be in contact with what was taking place. I mean, you think about waging a war without communication. I think about waging a war like World War I without computers. Can you imagine how they fed the people and kept the supplies there without computer? But they did it. Abraham Lincoln spent a great part of his time when he was president of the Union. He spent a great part of his time at the telegraph office, which was only 2 blocks from the White House, because there he could keep up with what was going on. Our generals did the same thing, only they did it out in the field. That was their mode of communication. Not a lot of people could do it. I read a book that Bobby gave me, and in this, I didn't read all of it, but I read a portion of it. There was a man from Canada named George Ellsworth. George Ellsworth had a particular knack for telegraphy. And a lot of people did. I often think about that we had a man named Gene Key. He worked second trick at the Jackson office. He was from down in this area somewhere. Was the best telegrapher I ever saw. He just had a knack for it. I mean, he just sent perfect. He could copy anything you made a stab at. The second best telegrapher I ever saw was my brother Bobby. He was, and the only difference between Gene Key and Bobby was Bobby had no patience. I mean, Bobby liked to send wide open, and if there was somebody on the other end that was 70 years old and had arthritis and rheumatism so bad they could hardly move, he didn't have any patience with them. He always thought, well, if I can do it, you ought to be able to do it. Of course, he was wrong. He got into trouble all the time. That way, with his train dispatching, he thought faster than most people did, and he had so little patience with anybody that didn't. But Gene Key was just the opposite. He looked like Ben Hogan, if you know anything about golf. Smoked cigarettes constantly. Was the best telegraph operator I ever saw. But this Ellsworth, he had a knack for sending, and James and I were talking about this before we met tonight. You know, everybody has a particular voice, and you recognize most people's voice on the telephone or whatever. But on telegraph wire, everybody had a particular way they send. And I would be up in Illinois, and I would talk to Daddy every day at 11 o'clock every day, the correct time would come over every telegraph wire that you had. And at the end of it, it was 11 a.m. and you set your watch. And after that, I would always get on the wire there, and people knew I was going to talk to Daddy. And talking to Daddy was just like, he had a knack, just like I could recognize his voice, which I told somebody 4 or 5 years ago. Daddy's been dead since I was 21, and I've forgotten how Daddy sounded. That's not good when you forget how your daddy sounded. But on the telegraph key, I could almost tell when Daddy opened the key that it was him. And I would talk to him maybe for about 10 minutes on the telegraph wire. Everybody between Tulsa, Illinois, and Mobile, Alabama could hear everything we said. That's how private it was. And I usually talked to Daddy about 10 minutes every day. Of course, there were no cell phones. They were, I guess the next thing was smoke signals. But I could just tell I could tell about Bobby. I could tell when Bobby was sending to me. And there was a man in Oklahoma, Mississippi named Sudbury. I worked with him every day just about it. Had a knack and sending the way nobody else I ever heard. He never used what we call a bug. There's a bug over here on this table, not a fly or something, but what we call a bug. That when you sit there and pound that key for, say 2.5 hours, you get awful tired. So you can use a bug and you can speed it up about 2 times plus, and it's a whole lot easier. But Mr. Sudbury, who I talked to every day that I worked at Islam First Tree, never met the man. Heard him on the telephone every once in a while, but never met him. Worked with him for years till he finally died. But he had a knack for sending like nobody else. I could be copying him and walk over and get a cup of coffee and come back and catch up. That's just how he sent. But it was his way. But this fellow Ellsworth, he had a knack that you couldn't, he didn't send the same way every time. So therefore, he came into the Confederate Army as a private, and they promoted him on up because they could see what a talent he was. But he could sing and sound different every day. So therefore, he could send messages deceiving, or let's just call it like it is, lying. And he was very effective at it. And the Confederacy used him quite a bit. Now the Union had people also, but the Union never had anybody like George Ellsworth. He had that knack that nobody else had. I mean, he had what you call a fist that was different from anything that anybody else had. He could copy and send like me. He could copy and send like James or Mr. Sudbury or Bobby. He could do that. I sent, and mine was basically the same thing. I basically spaced some words, and I mean, we all had our way of doing it. But George, he could do it my way or your way. And he was very successful. And he never did go back north. He never did go back to Canada. He actually went to Texas and died in Texas at some time, and it's not even sure. But you can see from what I've told you, railroads they just weren't 2 ribbons of steel. Telegraphy was just not 2 wires where people walked by and wondered what you were doing. But they were a major part of that war and other wars. A telegraph operator probably never fired a gun, but what he did was just as important, and sometimes maybe more important than the man that was firing the rifle. So again, let me thank you for the invitation to come talk. I can say without any doubt, you are my kind of people. I've enjoyed being here and probably would like to come back sometime. Thank you very much.
did have one question.
Now or the
Back when you was in your heyday.
probably 60 or so.
Is that right? Is it
Stand about,
Probably.
well, you can see it back here, you can receive it.
Now, 60 words to Bobby, he wouldn't have any patience with you. Because he was good, Gene Key was good. Those people stood out as excellent collectors. I was a good telegraph operator. I spent hours sitting, we'd have a train leave Mobile, Alabama with 100 cars of bananas. None of these cars were sold when they left Mobile. And I would sit there, and I was just thinking today, I was thinking about coming down here. We had an operator by the name of Pierce that worked 3rd Street Jackson. Good telegraph operator. I never did know much about him. I don't know where he went, whether he was a boomer or what. But he would lay off during the week whenever I was in school, and he'd call me and want me to work for him. And he'd pay me out of his own pocket. And 9 times out of 10 when he wanted off was when a banana train was leaving Mobile. And he knew I was going to have to copy probably 2 hours and a half of banana billing and turn it around and send it to Ruby up in Fulton, a woman operator. It was about a 5-hour ordeal sitting there telegraphing. And I just now figured out why he laid off. It was great.
All right. Anybody else got any questions?
You got time, Judge?
Go ahead.
How long is the telegraph and the railroad are usually together? How was that paid for? I assume the telegraph followed the railroad because it was clear. Is that right?
The telegraph probably followed the railroad because of right-of-way.
Okay.
I mean, just take Becky Jean, for instance. They didn't have electricity for years and years because a man named Leonard Bain would not let them set a pole on his property. He knew Leonard Bain.
Okay.
Wouldn't let him set a pole on his property. But the railroad already had the right-of-way.
Okay.
So it followed the right-of-way. Yes.
You said when you were talking to your dad, if somebody else wanted to break through the line, what did they have to do?
They just opened the key and
Start talking
and
with
start telegraphing. But they knew that I was 16 years old, and they knew I was talking to my daddy that was 300 miles away. And they usually didn't do that, but you could do that. That's a good question.
So, to pay for all of this, you had to, when you got a telegram, you had to pay for it, right?
Yes and no. I copied a lot of Western Unions. Even though I worked for the railroad, we copied and sent Western Unions. I never will forget, and I was working down at Raymond, a little town right north of Corinth. And this man came in, and he had a son in the Navy that was located in St. Louis. And he wanted to send him a telegram. I had no earthly idea what to charge him. And I said, sir, they're going to close this office in 2 months anyhow. I said, let me know what you want. He wrote it out, and I said, you don't know a penny. And I sent it and never did hear a word from it. But merely because I won James Thurman or I won Don McCaffrey. I didn't know what to charge. Now, whenever I copied and sent Western Union up in Illinois, all of that money was handled by the agent, which I was not.
All right.
Sir, I'm gonna tell you, I'm from Corinth, and I have a picture of Rustler Junction.
You do.
I sure do.
I spent a good part of my lifetime out there.
There wasn't much of it.
Just no highway. You know the reason there's not a road out there? Okay, I'm gonna tell you. There was an operator there named Ed Reynolds, and second trick was Lagarde. And they did not want a highway put out there, a road put out there, because they knew if they did, they'd get rolled off of that and have to go somewhere else. And for that reason, I spent my lifetime walking the Rustler Junction.
Across the railroad, not directly across front, but there's a lot of big concrete stuff in there and everything and a lot of railroad irons and everything in the world. Do you know of anything about a shop being right in there that they worked on trains? It must have been later years.
Corinth has always been a big railroad town. I mean,
Yeah,
it was as big a railroad town for its size as Jackson, Tennessee was.
yeah. This is a big place. It has parts of the wheels and a lot of the
I would
junctions that
imagine
the
that
cars
that
go
would be
together
part-
on and everything.
I bet you
I
Trent
imagine that
Lewis
be
would
part
know.
of the railroad that goes
Who?
through.
Trent Lewis, SCV
That
down
runs from
south.
Yeah.
Memphis
Yeah.
to Sheffield.
Yeah,
They
I
were
would like to
big
know
railroad.
about, what was across from Russell or something other.
All right.
He works on the railroad.
Any more
He
questions?
would know that stuff.
All right, let's move on. Saturday up on the square here in Ripley, they're having the Main Street Association is having what are they doing exactly, Tommy, up there? Sidewalk sale, all the stores will be open and they'll probably have some street vendors and things like that maybe. Me and Tommy was talking about it earlier today on the phone, and I told him that I already had plans for Saturday, but if anybody in this camp would love to go up there and set up a table, we can get banners up there for our camp banners, and maybe set up there and with some applications, and maybe try to do a little recruiting. It'd be a good chance for us, a good opportunity. I can't go, but if somebody would like to step up and get 2 or 3 or 4 people and just stay a couple hours up there, it would really, people see us, it'd be good publicity for us. If anybody's interested, if you are, get a hold of Mike before Saturday. And I think Mike and them are setting up for the VFW.
Right.
Is that right?
We'll be, come on down and visit us.
And so they'll be there. Tommy will be there. Bill, if he's able, I'm sure he'll be there. But if you would like to participate in this, I encourage you to. It'd be a lot of fun. And who knows, you might even get a new member out of it. Just being there and they see you and start asking questions. Well, I've heard about the SCV, but I just didn't know much about it. But or hey, I've been wanting to join that. Well, there's your opportunity, to tell them about it and the good things that we do. We're not bad people. Some of you are, but most don't. Okay, the only thing I got left is the hunt fees. Now, guys, if you want a metal ticket, our coming to hunt, this will be our 3rd hunt. If you can, if you haven't paid your dues to get in it, it's $40. And any of you done paid Rex that wants to pay again, you can. No. But we're trying to get as many people to pay up before April. Now we got today and next month, and then it'll be showtime. But what we're trying to do is, we're in great shape. We are. But we don't have, like 15 that signed up for the hunt so far, Ronnie?
17 counting
Tonight, okay. All right, 17. And that's not good, guys. And Larry, mention it to the Corinth camp, any of those guys at Metal Detect, we'd love for them to get in this. Of course, if they're not an associate member, they'll have to pay associate dues to get in our camp, and then they can pay to get in the hunt.
There you go.
But
What kind of hunt is it?
it's a metal detecting. We bury authentic Civil War artifacts in the ground, and then we go out and hunt it. So,
Like an Easter egg.
Maybe we'll get some telegraph and put out there.
good idea. Good idea. We love you joining us.
Marty, after the meeting closes, I'm going to do some telegraph and Bobby want to get.
Okay. Okay, if anybody's interested in that after the meeting, after we close. But what it is, the relic show's coming up in April, and we need, if any of you are gonna hunt, if you don't have a machine, we'll put one in your hand. I don't have about 7, so we can come up with a machine, put in your hand, and if you want to hunt, it'll cost $40. If you wait to the day of the hunt, it's $50. But we need this money before the show so we can buy more relics with it. We're not making a penny on it. We're spending every penny. Matter of fact, we're in a hole right now. But But we're in really good shape. We've already got our bullets. We got over 1,000 bullets. And I think there's still some that wanting to donate, and we will accept donations of any kind. But we're already in shape on the bullets. We've got 35 buttons, Union coat buttons going in it. We've got a breastplate, a bayonet, a Civil War bottle that was dug out of a fire pit. And we ain't even cannonball. We ain't even got our stuff from the sponsors yet that we'll be calling on. You know, we always get some.
Keep what you find?
Yes. No, you give it to me. No.
I'm the kind of member you like.
Yes. But anyway, no, what you find, you keep. That's yours. And so we've had a lot of fun with this. The last 2 years have been fun, and you've enjoyed our hunts. Don't we have fun? And it's not a real pressure hunt. Now, we are going to need volunteers again this year, you know, like we did last year. I always count on Joey, and we'll get some volunteers. But all we like really now is getting the sponsors, and we would like to have about 30 in this thing. So we need some more folks to get in, you know, more people, the more we can buy to put in it.
A lot of good prizes.
A lot of good prizes. And the fellowship is remarkable. You know, because Ronnie and me and Kimmy will be there, you know. So, also we might have a little twist. It's up to camp if you want this. But Kimmy and I have got a mutual friend that cooks some of the best barbecue you can put in your mouth. I mean, it's as good as Corky's or anywhere you want to go. It was fine. I sampled some of it. Kimmy, I sure would like to have some more of that. He got me a pack out of his freezer and getting it. But we're thinking about maybe getting him, instead of having hot dogs that day, some barbecue. Would y'all go for that?
Yeah.
So we're thinking about going that route. Now, it's going to cost a little more. It might cost you $2 for a barbecue to where it was $1 for a hot dog. But that's okay. I'll buy you one if you can't afford a $2 hot dog barbecue. All right, that's all I've got tonight. I appreciate all of you coming. Yes, Raymond, we need to get a picture. We're going to put it in down at the jailhouse.
After this is over, stand up here. Just kind of hang back by the stage back there. Bring your certificate.
Mike has an announcement. After Mike makes his announcement, Brother Bobby, you come up and do our closing prayer. And then everyone will be standing on the prayer and remain standing. We'll sing Dixie and go home, okay? Thank you guys for coming. Visitors, raise your hand, visitors. We got quite a few tonight. I hope you had fun tonight. Come back to be with us, okay, guys? And listen, if you don't know if you got an ancestor, we'll find them for you, okay? We'll make some up. And we'll get you in here, okay? Yeah.